Picture this. Your entire workday, from sunrise to sunset, is dictated by the sun. Sending a message to a loved one just one city over? That could take days, maybe even weeks, because it's traveling no faster than a horse. A simple cut, an infection, could easily be a death sentence. And fresh strawberries in January? For most folks, that was pure fantasy. This wasn't some ancient lost civilization. This was life for the vast majority of people, just 125 years back. So how on earth did we so radically, so completely, flip the script on existence in what's basically a single lifetime? As the 1800s rolled over into the 1900s, the seeds of some massive changes were already taking root. One of the biggest game changers? Electricity. Suddenly, it wasn't just being experimented with, it was starting to spread. Imagine towns and cities, once plunged into darkness after sunset or relying on the unsteady flicker of gaslight, now bathed in the steady glow of electric lamps. And this wasn't just about seeing in the dark. It literally stretched the day, supercharged productivity, and totally changed social life. Factories, which used to have to call it quits when the sun went down, could now run 24/7. This fueled industrial growth like crazy and pulled more and more people into cities looking for these new kinds of jobs. Communication was also getting a major upgrade. The telegraph had already started making the world feel a bit smaller. But then the telephone, which had been around for a bit, really began its march into businesses and wealthier homes. Real-time voice chats over long distances? That was practically magic back then. No longer did every single message need to be physically carried somewhere. And then there was this faint hum in the air, the first radio waves. Initially, it was for sending messages from one point to another, but you could already sense its potential for broadcasting to an entire nation, all at once. And let's not forget the automobile. What started out as a noisy, unreliable toy for the rich began its slow but steady journey towards becoming something everyone could own. The very idea of personal motorized transport was revolutionary. It promised a kind of freedom of movement people had only dreamed of, a way to break free from the limits of horse-drawn carriages and rigid train schedules. The world was still a big place, sure, but these early innovations were laying down the tracks, stringing up the wires, and paving the roads for a future that was going to be a whole lot smaller and a heck of a lot faster. For some, daily life was already starting to shake off its ancient shackles. That early momentum, it didn't just continue. It hit the accelerator as we moved into the second quarter of the century. Even the sky wasn't the limit anymore.
A Titan II missile lifts from its pad. This flight down the South Atlantic target range makes history. This is the booster that will carry the Gemini space vehicle on the nation's next manned spaceflight program. What makes this test stand as a milestone is a camera that is mounted on the second stage of the booster.
Airplanes, which had made their wobbly debut a few decades earlier, went from being these rickety daredevil contraptions to actual viable machines for transport, and sadly, for war.
The offensive weapons tomorrow are here today. Supersonic, super destructive, seemingly unresistible.
By the middle of the century, commercial air travel was starting to stitch continents together, shrinking the globe in a way that used to take epic, months-long voyages.
An average of 5 airplanes are taking off or landing somewhere in these United States.
Back on the ground,
You bet we are. And that's why I'm so interested in showing you this Westinghouse Commander electric range.
especially inside the home, a quieter but just as profound revolution was unfolding. That spreading electricity now powered a whole new generation of domestic appliances. Take the refrigerator. What a game changer. No longer did you have to rely solely on salting, smoking, or hoping you could get your hands on some ice to keep food from spoiling. Fresh food could last longer, diets got way more interesting, and a lot less food went to waste. This completely changed how people shopped and massively boosted nutrition. And right alongside fridges came washing machines, vacuum cleaners, and all sorts of other gadgets that started to lift the enormous weight of household chores, freeing up a significant amount of time, especially for women. Medical science was also taking incredible leaps. The discovery and then the widespread use of antibiotics like penicillin meant that common infections, things that could have easily killed you before, were now treatable. You combine that with big steps forward in vaccines and public health, and suddenly, life expectancy started to climb, and climb fast. As people started living longer, healthier lives, new ways to spend their newfound leisure time popped up. Movies went from silent to talkies, and millions were hooked. Radio became a fixture in just about every living room, piping in news, music, and stories. And by the end of this period, television was just starting to make its debut, a flickering little window that would soon offer an even more powerful connection to the great wide world. Society was on the move, healthier and more plugged in than ever before.
We have come to visit you in peace and with goodwill.
The post-war years saw those earlier technologies really mature and spread like wildfire. But at the same time, completely new ideas were starting to bubble up. Television, which was a bit of a novelty before, absolutely exploded into homes across the developed world. It quickly became the way people got their news, entertainment, and a shared sense of culture. It shaped opinions, created those water cooler moments, and gave people a visual peek at events happening thousands of miles away. This really started to create a new kind of global awareness, for better or worse. But an even bigger shift was quietly brewing in research labs and universities: the birth of the computer. These first ones were monsters. They filled entire rooms, and only scientists or huge institutions could get near them. But the calculations they could perform were already hinting at a future where we could solve incredibly complex problems at speeds no one had ever seen. A major breakthrough here was the invention of the transistor in 1947. That little thing was key to making computers smaller and smaller, which would eventually put all that computing power into the hands of everyday people. Then there was the space race.
The Russians chalk up another victory in the space race as they put two manned spacecraft into orbit within 24 hours of each other. Colonel Pavel Popovich and Major Andriy Nikolaev follow in the footsteps of two other Russian astronauts, Titov and Gagarin, and thus give the Soviets 4 manned orbital flights against 2 for the United States.
It was a huge display of what humans could do when they put their minds to it, and it spun off countless other useful technologies back here on Earth. While rockets were blasting off, a different kind of connection was being built. Early experiments in networking, mostly driven by military and academic needs, were creating the very first links between computers, the distant, ancient ancestor of the Internet we know today. And medical science? It just kept charging ahead. Vaccines helped us conquer diseases like polio, which had a massive impact on child mortality and overall public health. New surgical techniques and tools for looking inside the body helped people live longer and have a better quality of life. The pace of change itself was speeding up. The world of 1980 was a completely different place than the world of 1950, not just in what we could do, but in how society was structured, our view of the globe, and this growing sense that an interconnected, information-packed future was just around the corner. So, if the earlier decades laid the groundwork, the period from the 1980s up to right now, That's when a technological tsunami hit, and it has completely reshaped almost every single thing about how we live. The main spark for all this? The digital revolution. The personal computer, which started as something for dedicated hobbyists, became a standard piece of kit in homes and offices. And it wasn't just for crunching numbers. It was a doorway to creating things, communicating, and finding information. Then came the internet. It began as this niche network for academics, but when the World Wide Web was invented in the early 90s, it blew up into a global platform anyone could access. All of a sudden, massive libraries of information, worldwide marketplaces, and ways to talk to anyone instantly were just a click away. The whole idea of distance, at least for communication, pretty much vanished. It started as this clunky, expensive thing for a lucky few, but it morphed into the smartphone. Basically, a super powerful computer that fits in your pocket. This cut the internet's cord, making constant connection the new normal. Social media platforms popped up, and they've totally changed how we interact, how we share and overshare information, how we form communities, and even how we see ourselves. Information, both the good stuff and the bad, could now zip around the globe in seconds. Work changed dramatically with remote collaboration, the rise of the gig economy, and increasing automation. Education got a massive accessibility boost through online learning. Entertainment became something you could get on demand, with streaming services offering a seemingly endless buffet of choices. Medical breakthroughs kept coming, supercharged by all this new computing power. Things like sequencing the human genome and incredibly detailed medical imaging. Artificial intelligence, which used to be firmly in the realm of science fiction, started seeping into everything, from the algorithms that power your search results to tools that help doctors diagnose diseases, and it's promising yet another wave of huge changes. Just think back to that world from 125 years ago. The horse-drawn carriage, the handwritten letter taking weeks to arrive, an entire day consumed by manual chores. Now look at our world. Instant video calls with someone on the other side of the planet. The sum of human knowledge literally in your hand. Hopping across continents in a matter of hours, and homes packed with devices that do our chores for us. This leap hasn't just been about making things easier. It's fundamentally altered our economies, our social lives, our politics, and our very understanding of what humanity can pull off. From a world lit by flickering candles and powered by human and animal muscle, to one that's blazing with LEDs and driven by tiny microprocessors. The journey over these last 125 years has been, well, nothing short of mind-blowing. Every single invention, from the humble fridge that changed how we eat to the internet that connects billions, didn't just solve an existing problem. It opened up a whole universe of new possibilities, often in ways the inventors themselves could never have dreamed of. This constant stream of technology has totally reshaped our societies, our economies, and just the way we live our day-to-day lives. We now live longer, we're more connected, and we have access to more information and opportunities than any group of humans ever before in history. This incredible leap really shows off the relentless power of human ingenuity, doesn't it? But it's also a great reminder that progress never really stops.